There's a reason all men love Betty Buzz. Because at Betty Buzz, we don't test on animals. We test on men. That's a good boy. Drink up. Let him know how good it is.
Betty Buzz.
You are not going to believe what I found when I started cross-referencing dates within the Blake Lively's complaint as well as Justin Baldoni's lawsuit. And when I compared them to Blake Lively's social media, this is what I found. Wait until I show you this. Now, I'm going to start you with this right here. So this is a timeline that the Wayfarer production issues and Justin Baldoni's allegations. All right. So we don't need to go through all of it. This is the most important date I want you to focus on. On November 9th, 2023, the SAG-AFTRA strike ended. Then on November 15th, 2023, Wayfair agreed to the terms outlined in a rider. This is the 17 points, the demands to return to work that Blake ambushed Wayfair with when the strike was over, and they were excited to get production started. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, she decided to present them with this 17 points. We've all heard about it, but I want to jump you over to this really quickly. So it says production on the film halted temporarily on June 14, 2023, due to WGA, that's the Writers Guild, picketing. The next day, the production was notified that the WGA had agreed not to picket their set, allowing production to continue. But Lively was already gone and refused to return to production immediately. She had gone over to the UK with Ryan Reynolds because they claim they can't be separated at all or they will die. So she had left the country and spent the entire summer over in London. And even Ryan Reynolds speaking, he was doing like you know how they do these talks around the movie premiere for different movies. Well, for Deadpool and Wolverine, he talks about how his whole family came over and they spent the summer in London and the kids were there, his wife was there, and all of these different things. So this is kind of what this is describing right there. Wayfair reworked the shooting schedule at great expense to film scenes with the younger versions of the characters instead of footage requiring Lively. On June 27, 2023, production shut down entirely for the intensity of the strike. The SAG-AFTRA strike soon followed, beginning on July 14, 2023. Now, let's continue. Here it is. The WGA strike ended September 27, 2023, and the SAG-AFTRA strike ended on November 9th, 2023. Remember November 9th. Months before, Baldoni had made Lively's representative aware that they would continue pre-production in order to hit the ground running when the strikes ended. But Lively and her lawyers had been busy devising other plans during the strike. The same day that the SAG-AFTRA strike ended, Baldoni, the studios, and producers were eager to resume production. Instead, they were met with an email from Lively's lawyer, who sent Wayfair an unsettling and unexpected 17-point list of non-negotiable conditions that must be met before Lively would return to work. The stunning list was drafted for the apparent purpose of insinuating or outright claiming that Baldoni, Heath, and others had engaged in sexually inappropriate conduct during filming. Nothing could be further from the truth. Let's keep going. All right, so then they kind of list all of these different complaints that she had, or the 17 points and what was going on, giving their rebuttals to it and all of that. So we're picking back up. Given both Lively and Reynolds' firsthand knowledge of these facts, Lively's insistence on her November 9th, 2023 return to production demands on the constant presence of an intimacy coordinator was baffling. So this is going into, she was saying there was no intimacy coordinator, but we know there was. She refused to meet with them. Just lies. However, because Wayfair had already engaged in an intimacy coordinator and no issue with and had no issue with the request. And given the request came with the threat that Lively would not come back to work after months of filming and planning, Wayfair acquiesced. The acquiescence, given with the written caveat that Wayfair disagreed with the characterizations, was later used by Lively to falsely suggest an acknowledgement that there had not been an intimacy coordinator at all. Which, I mean, like, why does she lie about things that are easily provable? It's bizarre. All right. So again, I'm jumping around, but this is important information. However, production had always adhered to this and had no problem agreeing to this demand, talking about a closed set if there was nudity or sex scenes. For clarity, no intimacy scenes were even shot prior to November 9th of 2023, return to production demands. Therefore, under no circumstance did Lively shoot intimate scenes without a nudity writer, as suggested in her complaint, and production did not violate any SAG-AFTRA rules. The one simulated nude scene filmed prior to the strike break and the November 9th, 2023 return to production demands was a scene that Lively wrote and knew of in advance and directed the action for, and she never requested a nudity writer or intimacy coordinator for that scene. This is a scene that when she's in the mirror, if you've seen the movie, and she's like realizing she's been, she's just been abused by the character Ryle, and she has a towel on, and you never see her from the collar. You don't see her below her chest. Like, you don't see her chest. You only see her from up here. Okay. So she's not even nude, but there's a simulated nudity. Okay. With a shower scene, but she actually is clothed. She's actually covered up. We just can't see it on camera. So this is what they're talking about. All right. So again, they're talking about her, about how she refused to come to work. I don't know why this is doing, this is jumping around. All right. I'm going to get to it. I just wanted to show you that she had to, what she was doing with this. Okay, again, they're talking about Wayfair pointed out that the additional expense and the contractual implications of hiring an additional producer would have detrimental effects to the production. In the end, Wayfair agreed, as it would cost production more if Lively refused to return to work. So this is when they demanded that Todd Black be added into being a producer to the movie. This is what they demanded for this out of the blue. Again, none of this makes sense. And Todd Black actually quit because when he had a meeting with Ryan Reynolds and Justin Baldoni and everyone came together, Ryan Reynolds berated Justin Baldoni so bad and was so out of control that Todd Black said he had never, not only Todd Black, but a Sony representative, but Todd Black, this 40-year veteran producer who has done huge movies, said that he had never in his 40 years ever seen anything like it. He had never seen anyone act like Ryan Reynolds or do that to somebody else in a movie setting or in a production setting. And it was so bad that he quit because it disturbed him that bad. And the only way they could bring him back was to pay him 3 times the amount. So Blake Lively, so get this, the producer that they demanded be hired, that Wayfair spends extra money on, was so outraged by what Ryan Reynolds had done, who had brought him into this project, that he quit because of Ryan Reynolds' behavior. And then to get him back, they enticed him, they begged him to come back, and he probably just threw out some like, listen, I'll only come back if you give me 3 times the amount. And he probably threw that out, not thinking that they would pay it or that it would be ridiculous for someone to do that. But they ended up going to Wayfair and forcing Wayfair to pay him 3 times what he originally was contracted to do, that they were forced to contract him to do. And so then he had no choice but to come back onto the set. All right. And this is all going to make sense in a second. Okay, so this talks about before returning to production, Lively had even more script notes and changes beyond what was already performed during phase 1 of production. In the face of these terrifying and false accusations couched as demands, as well as Lively's threat that she would not return to production, Baldoni realized he needed to cede control of the script to Lively as she wished. his film would be taken from him by threats and coercion, and there was nothing that could be done about it. Okay, so he's going on about the return to production. Okay, so I just want to show you the demands that were being made, how they were forced to acquiesce, and what was happening. So this goes on, but now let's get into the real meat. Now, this is what I posted in the wee hours of the morning or last night, whichever way you want to put it. Because when I saw those dates, I decided to go and cross-reference the November 9th, and I believe November 15th was when they signed it, which is what that whole timeline shows, November 15th. So I wanted to go back to 2023 and go through and see what Blake was posting at that time. And lo and behold, this is what I found. So Blake Lively sent her 17 demands to return to work on November 9th, 2023. She claimed it was for a safe environment for everyone. In reality, it was filled with things that gave her power over nearly every aspect of production. And I would say not every aspect of production. She probably wasn't controlling the lighting or the catering and the mundane work, the grunt work that she, of course, would never engage in because she's too lazy. She would rather just take another person's production and do the fancy stuff, the major stuff. Okay, we're talking about the editing, the script writing, the music composition, all the things. In reality, it was filled with things that gave her power over nearly every aspect of production. Why is that bubble thing popping up? That is so weird. Sorry, guys. Not only that, but she would claim retaliation if anyone did anything she deemed negative, like a change in tone or attitude. I kid you not. Now, I've gone over that before. If you guys haven't seen it, the things that she could claim as retaliation I've never seen anything like it in my life. Justin Baldoni responded on November 15th that they didn't want to sign it because none of the negative things she claimed ever happened, and they would be losing control of the film. Blake shot back that it was non-negotiable, and if they didn't sign it, she wouldn't finish the movie and would file a lawsuit. So they were forced to agree. She tested out if her strategy to take over the movie would work, and it did. This is what Blake, who was sexually harassed, afraid, feeling unsafe, and suffering mental anguish, posted on November 21st, 2023. Mission complete. Now, the piece de resistance that I have been wanting to show you. And actually, I'm going to make myself smaller again so you guys can see it really big because you really need to get an idea of what's going on here. So we're going to make this even bigger, and there we go.
There's a reason all men love Betty Buzz. Because at Betty Buzz, we don't test on animals. We test on men. That's a good boy. Drink up. Let him know how good it is.
Betty Buzz.
So, just so you can follow along, and I have more for you. November 9th, she creates this the same day that the Actors Guild strike ends. That means actors could go back to work. They could start production again. On that same day, her attorneys sent that letter on November 9th making these workplace demands, the 17 points demands that you can see her trying to take over the film, her trying to control it, right? On November 15th, Justin Baldoni doesn't sign it, but Jamie Heath does as a representative of Wayfair because they felt like they were under duress. What I would say extortion, meaning if you don't sign this is non-negotiable. If you don't sign this, then I will not return to work. And not only that, there was a threat of suing them if they didn't sign it. And they're already over budget. Things are already a mess, mostly because of Blake's doing. and they were going to lose out on millions of dollars or completely lose the movie for however, who knows how long, if she didn't come back, because they had already filmed half the movie by that point. And Blake Lively obviously is the other star outside of Justin Baldoni. So they needed her for this movie. So November 9th, she sends the demands. November 15th, they end up signing it under duress and threat of extortion. November 21st, she posts this to her Instagram, where she's talking about control, where, doing that whole stick of controlling a man, telling him good boy, basically showing that she's the head honcho in charge, that she is the one that is the powerful one and has control over men, even saying good boy, drink it all up, and how she tests things on men. But to drive it home, in case some of you think I'm deranged, which I can be, this had to be filmed once the actors' strike ended on November 9th, 2023. The exact time Blake did this to Justin. They could not have filmed this before November 9th because of the actors' strike, right? So that means from November 9th, when the actors' strike ended, to November 21st, she filmed this very thing, this very commercial for Betty Booze, whatever, okay? During that I guess we want to say about 2 weeks where that took place, that she filmed that. And keep in mind, they signed this thing on the 15th. So whether she did it before as an intimidation or she did it after they signed as a victory lap, that's how I see it. And to drive it home some more, Ryan Reynolds' company is the marketing agency for Blake's Liquor. They came up with this together. Look at what this caption says. Hopefully you can see it. Betty Buzz, cruelty-free unless men count. And look who liked it. Van City Reynolds, who has blocked me on X. He hasn't blocked me on Instagram, I think because I'm not as active there, but I'm starting to get active. But look at cruelty-free unless men count. On November 21st, when she took her victory lap for taking over, getting her way and taking over the movie, which I think was planned and designed by Ryan Reynolds, because this is something that he's done. This is what happened with Deadpool, which is why the original director of Deadpool quit, because being around Ryan Reynolds was an absolute monster. And what Ryan wants, he's going to get. What did he say? He's too big to fail now. He's going to crush his enemies and drink their blood. And we know that this has been his MO. People have talked about how outrageous he is, how deranged he is, how mean and nasty and vile and disgusting and bullyish, I guess you can say that he is. People have talked about it. But then this is confirmed that during this time that he was being a bully, that he was out of control, that he was enraged, to the point during this same time that Todd Black quit the film. So this is what was coming against Justin Baldoni. And when Ryan finally got his way, this is why I think they did this after he signed it. I think they did it after the 15th, or starting on the 15th, or right at that moment. Or this is a very cheap commercial. This isn't something that requires a whole lot. And I believe this is an actor, bodybuilder that he's worked with before, who's a friend of theirs. Some people said he's done some things with Ryan to bully Justin Baldoni in the past. I haven't gone down that rabbit trail. I will, guys. We have a lot of rabbit trails to still tie up for this case. But I thought it was important to show this. I don't know if Justin Baldoni's attorney, Bryan Freedman, is aware of this. He's got a lot on his plate. His law firm has a lot. He's managing a lot of different lawsuits and a lot of different cases, even just involving this whole situation. I don't know what work he has outside of it. But as we send in receipts and we let them know what's going on, this is something that I think needs to be tied together and can actually show malice. This is, everyone in the comments is saying, like, they cannot believe that this is what happened, that she actually filmed this very thing it could be the very same day or the day after that she got them to acquiesce, as they said, acquiesce to her demands under duress. showing to me pure malice. And this is the other thing. Some people could say, well, it had nothing to do with that. They don't, maybe that's just what they wanted to film and they just happened to do it and blah, blah, blah. Okay, sure. But you do realize how they've mocked Justin Baldoni multiple times during this entire saga. They did it with that whole skit with Brandon Sklenar. There's a whole deep dive on that I haven't done yet. I think Ellsrich has done it and it's really great. But I want to dive into it some more, where they were essentially, it was a way to bully Justin Baldoni. But then the biggest one of all, guys, we know what happened with Deadpool. And I believe with Deadpool, a lot of people, and this was my assumption, when they were making fun of Justin Baldoni, they use him for satire. They use him as a point to bully. They send messages and Easter eggs during things like this. And they've done it for a long time, not just with this, but they tell on themselves in many different places. People have just not added up the receipts. But one of the things, when you look at in Deadpool with the Nice Pool character, a lot of us think that, like, what I believe when they killed Justin Baldoni at the end, and I want to walk through it because I want to interpret it from their lens, not just the words that are saying, but what are they really trying to say? What was Ryan Reynolds really trying to say about Justin Baldoni? At the end, when they kill him, I don't think it was meant as like physically killing him, although it could mean physically killing him. But I think they mean with him being killed and shot outside of that flower shop that was on the Deadpool, the Nice Pool scene. If you guys haven't seen it, you got to check it out. I think they meant that they had killed him. They had killed his movie. And since they've taken over his movie, they got rid of him. And it being right outside that flower shop, I would like to know when that scene was filmed. It would be very interesting if they filmed that scene while they were in London during the summer, so that when they came back and she did this 17-point list and then they did this, I feel like it all ties together. And if they filmed that scene, that Deadpool scene where he's being shot before, or the script was done for it, or the plans for it were done during that summer when she was out in London, when they were filming and they were all talking about it. And I think that is when they filmed that whole Deadpool Nice Pool scene where all the different Deadpools came out. They had Lady Pool, they had Kid Pool, because Blake and the kids were there with him during that time. So I believe it was filmed during the summer. I can't say for sure. So when they had this break because of the writers' strike and then the actors' strike, and then they plan and they film killing Justin Baldoni. Then they come back, present the 17 points, take over his movie, kill him essentially from running his own production and killing him from having his own movie. If you get what I mean, having control of his movie. And then finally, when Blake makes these demands, just like she's telling this dude, like, you're going to do what I tell you to do. You're going to drink it up. Good boy. You're going to do that. I believe that this was like a victory thing. I don't know. Hopefully this makes sense. I was all over the place with this. Hopefully you can track. I just wanted to show you what kind of my thinking is, but I feel like this is important. And I feel as though the information, we could find out when this was filmed, what was said, who was involved, the script, who was filming it, everything that was talked about. If we get text messages with this actor, they're definitely going to need that. And then going back into Deadpool and getting all of the discovery and then the depositions from the people involved with that. I think right here, there could be a tie-in to prove malice with the 17-point document. And also with the lawsuit, because she threatened to sue them and she makes these demands after over the summer, they had nice, like, kind of pleasantries talking. So while they were pretending and doing all these nice pleasantries with him over the summer, while production was stalled, they ambushed him with this, just like he was ambushed in Deadpool. Guys, that's all I have for you on this. Like I said, I hope it was making sense. Make sure you are going to realmelanieking.com. That is my merch shop. I just did a couple new shirts. Just a mirror will do. if you guys remember that. And I have done a new updated design. I did my Justice Dragon now in blue. As you can see, I have it here with like the multicolor with the flowers going on here. Then I kind of did like a plain one with just a blue dragon. I'm going to be tweaking some more designs that I'm going to be putting out. But if you want to check that out and support this channel, make sure you go to the link below. It will take you right to my Team Justin merch. And also, like I said, make sure you guys are following me on social media. And with that, I will see you guys on the next one.